All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Gary Sankary, and I am in the retail industry strategy here at Esri. Welcome to today's webinar, Data, Demographics, and Dashboards. And I am really delighted to be joined today by my colleagues, Eric Pollard, who is from our professional services area, and Dennis Kaplan, who is a senior solutions engineer who supports the real estate industry. So we're part of the consumer goods and services practices here at Esri, and what we are going to do today is show you how you can use data and insights from site to do business in order to make your pitches more relevant and to make the information that you share with your customers and your clients more compelling. Please do feel free to ask questions during the webinar. We do have a question and answer tab, and we are going to be monitoring it throughout the session. We will try to respond to as many as we can while we're during the session, but if we don't get to your question, we will reach out afterwards and every question will be answered. In addition, if you have any questions at all or you're having any kind of technical difficulties, please go ahead and use the chat. And we do have people monitoring that can help you and try to troubleshoot some of those issues. This recording and the presentation that's coming along with it will be emailed to all of the registered attendees. So if you do miss something or you're taking notes furiously, you will get some collateral from this. We'll send that out to you. All right. So that's enough from the intro, and right now, Dennis and Eric, welcome, and thanks for joining us today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Eric.
All right, thanks, Gary. Thanks, everybody. As Gary said, my name is Eric Pollard, and I lead our professional services, consumer goods and services practice. That includes real estate and retail, manufacturing, and other consumer-facing industries. So happy to be here to show you a few things that you can do in the business analyst and site to do business application. First, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to cover today. So some of the topics are going to be some updates to the data, and we'll get to those in a minute. Those are going to occur towards the end of the month with our regular release. The next topic will be some mapping and visualization that Dennis will show you, some good ways to make your visuals look that much better and easily produced. Then we'll show you some reports and infographics. So we'll show you some new infographic templates that we have, some new data, some new ways to use those infographics. And then Dennis will also show you quick reports. Some of you may have seen some of this on our past webinars, but it's good to go over what we have in there now, what's to come, and how easily you can make a quick market map report. And then lastly, dashboards. I'm going to show you some of the dashboarding technique that's now available on Business Analyst Web. And this is a great way to share a series of locations, sites, trade areas, as well as the associated demographics and infographics that go along with those trade areas. So without further ado, let's get into some of the content. So for the February data updates, as we said, it's towards the end of the month. We don't have an exact date yet, but you'll get a message when that does come close here. And so what you'll see when we have that update is a few different things. First off, some of the new data will be aggregated into some gallery infographics. Two specific ones to call out are the civilian labor force profile. Dennis will show you that a little bit more later, having obviously a lot of data about the labor force, how that's segmented into different industries, their income, different quantifications of that type of data, as well as a nonprofit community profile. And this one's very interesting. This one mixes some of our psychographic segmentation data along with other information about some nonprofit type giving and charitable donations, etc. Secondly, we also have some updates to the Puerto Rico data, as well as the United States data for ACS, and that's the American Community Survey information. So we're releasing the 2017 through 2021 American Community Survey estimates. That's going to be a big increase, in terms of the volume of data A available with current information, and B, also Puerto Rico, which I know a lot of you have been asking for. And then we're going to have the updated Michael Bauer data. So that's the data that's for worldwide, multiple countries and international. We're releasing 21 additional countries and regions, most of those outside of the Americas. So we're expanding our footprint within the business analyst and site to do business applications. And then we have the updated global points of interest. So I'm going to show you that in a moment. That's going to be the Foursquare data set that is the global points of interest, but also the next bullet is the data axle and SafeGraph data. And that's going to be the United States data, but again, updated data for those business locations and business listings. And then finally, we have updated crime indices. So those crime indexes or indices are coming from the Applied Geographic Solutions provider. And that's really going to update all of those different granular metrics on types of crime, amount of crime, indices of crime, et cetera. Finally, if you want to read more about this, we have a great blog article, what's coming in Esri Demographics in February 2023, and it'll go into more detail about each of these data sources. So very quickly,
Eric,
I just wanted, yes.
As you're talking, I think the data really, one of the first questions come in, just kind of, it's general, and I know we're going to answer, but just to keep it forefront, we do have a question. Just one of our listeners here is asking about how they can quickly find specific locations within an area, and that and I know we've got several data sources to be able to do that. So thanks.
Yeah, sure. And actually, we're going to get into that here in the demo a little bit. So I assume that's pertaining to the business and facilities search. So let me discuss a little bit about how that works. So in the business analyst web application or site to do business application, you're probably familiar with this screen by now. This is your main map pane. Up at the top, you have a create map button on the blue bar. If you click there and you click points of interest search, that's going to be your POIs, your business locations, et cetera. What's important to note on here, as I discussed earlier, is towards the bottom, we have multiple sources of that data. In summary, if I were to click here, you have 3 sources, but the primary use cases of each are relatively clear. Foursquare is really best for international points of interest, right? That data is very, very good for international, so non-United States points of interest. SafeGraph and Data Axle are both good in the United States. They do have varying levels of vintage and completeness. So we typically have Data Axle as our default data source. You may find that for the types of industries or types of businesses you're trying to search for, SafeGraph may be a better choice. So I would definitely implore you to try both and see how you like them. As a general rule of thumb, when I'm working with most retailers, for instance, Data Axle tends to be the choice for those. So we'll go with the Data Axle choice today. Up here, we have a few different types of ways to search for businesses. One of them is to search by a code, a NAICS or SIC code. So those are the North American Industrial Classification System codes and the Standard Industrial Classification System codes. Those are not made by Esri. Those are governmental codes, basically, to aggregate businesses into categories. And so you can do a couple of things. You can actually enter in the raw code or start to enter in it, and it will autofill what you're looking for. So if I were to start to type in some numbers here, it'll start to actually show me codes that match those numbers. You also can search by category. So if I go ahead and hit search by category, now what I can do is up here in the category dropdown, I can actually choose from a series of different categories. So what I want to do is run you real quick through about a 60-second realistic scenario. So I was going to drill down into somewhere near where I'm sitting today. And I'm going to define an area very quickly. So I'm going to hit define areas. I'm going to hit select geography, excuse me. I'll select it from the map, and I'll choose a county in this instance. So I'm going to go ahead and choose counties, and I see my counties populate in the map. I'm going to choose a county that I'm interested in. I'm going to hit next. And then I'm going to say I'm done by choosing this county. Now, next, what I might want to do is find a series of locations in this county. For instance, let's say coffee shops. So I'll go back up to that create maps. I'll go to that points of interest search, as I started to preview earlier. And in this case, I am going to use a search by category. I'll hit the drop down for category. I'll go down to the foods and restaurants major grouping, and then I'll drop that down for the minor groupings. One of them is coffee shops. And I'll hit that coffee shops button, and then I'll drop out of here. And then all I need to do to make sure that it only returns results in St. Johns County is to switch from the current map extent to the St. Johns County border that I had just created. Now, if I go ahead and hit go, what you'll see in a moment is roughly 32 different coffee shops that are across St. Johns County. I also can filter them further by checking on and off specific names or specific zips or even things like estimated square footage, number of employees, sales volume, etc. Very importantly, this button over here will allow you to draw the entire data table so that you can see all of the different coffee shop variables that we have for each of those 32. And you can individually choose to include or disinclude them with the checkboxes. When I'm done, I hit next. Oh, and I did this earlier, but I'll show you how I did this. Here in the symbol section, I may also want to change the symbols. So I can hit the drop down, choose from a series of symbols, change the color, change the size. I think you've probably seen this before, but you have access to a large number of symbols. I went to people and I chose the coffee mug, obviously for coffee shops. So we'll go
Eric,
ahead.
we need one quick question. We're getting a little behind, but what's the time frame of the financial information?
Yeah, so the financial information, again, depending on which data set you choose, right? If you choose the data axle data, it'll be based on the years that it is updated in. So right now we have the 2022 data out there. Those are from tax filings, essentially. So the estimated sales volumes, understand it's estimated, first off. It's estimated based on a formula between the square footage that's listed in their tax filings, the number of employees that's listed in their tax filings, as well as an industry multiplier, which is a little bit of our secret sauce to get to that estimate for each of those. So again, it'll be based on the year set that is released. Right now, it's the 2022 data, and coming soon will be the 2023 data. All right. Okay, so that's going ahead and creating a series of locations using our business and facilities search. Again, those are being updated at the end of the month. You'll have more and up-to-date information. You always can get individual information on any of these locations, look at the attributes, etc. in the map. We're going to come back to this when I create a dashboard, but for now, we're going to go back to the presentation and move on to the next topic. And I'm going to turn it over to Dennis for this one.
Cool. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, so what I wanted to do is, I know a lot of individuals go into the business analyst web application and you put your point down and you get your report and you get out. But what I wanted to do is introduce some really introduce the power of visual analysis that you can do inside of the business analyst web application. Let me share my screen here. Alrighty. So what I wanted to do is start on the dashboard, the Site2Do Business dashboard, and launching from Business Analyst Web. So if you go into Business Analyst Web and into the map, what I did, so I've been in San Antonio for Texas for 16 years. I grew up in the Southern California area, and the home prices got a little crazy, and we had a regional office in Texas. So we tend to do demos with areas that we know. So I'm going to go into San Antonio, Texas. And I knew nothing about this area when I moved here. Like, where are we moving? What's going on? My father-in-law and everybody moved here, so we decided to come here. So what I wanted to do is learn about this area. So the quickest way I wanted to learn about this area is I utilized our software. And the software has this really nice tool, color-coded maps. Another term for it is thematic mapping. And this gives you a really nice way to not just only look at, let's say, one variable, but there's different ways to look at multiple variables at a different, at the same time to tell a different story. And while I'm doing this, though, what we've done it as we put some, variables here, some quick popular variables on this. I call it the quick pick list. You may have your favorites that you've used before, or the variables that you've recently used, or you can always go to browse all variables and have access to all of Esri's variable list, or you can even type in bread or income or disposable income or tapestry, and it'll bring you to the variables that to be able to thematically map those or color code those. I'm just going to choose total population just to kind of make it easier here to demo this. And when you choose the variable, you'll notice, and I think a lot of people may know this on the phone, it displays the scale or where you're at, the zoom that's appropriate for the geography level. Like, I mean, looking at state level, it wouldn't make sense because it doesn't tell us a story. So right now we're at the census tract level. If I zoom in a little bit further, it should go to the block group level of geography. There's some fun things and really useful tools here that you can utilize in this environment. Back to basics here, the filter tool. I just want to see areas that have lots of block groups, because we're at block groups. Zip codes make more sense maybe for something like this if you're looking at a metro area, but just to show you can filter these this display by just clicking filter and just filtering display, or you can go into edit the display. You can say, I really want this category to be bigger. I want this one to be smaller, and start really adjusting the way that the application or the map looks. It's not going to be right, but green, it looks a weird color, but you can change the colors to make it look more green, more red, change the scales, change the number of classes, change the math or the method that it's breaking up the data to display the information. Something else that I think is interesting too is being able to do the different styles. So I just have one variable right now, but with one variable, we can do what we're used to, color-coded maps with a thematic display per geography, but we can also do graduated circles. It's kind of harder to tell, I think, here. I mean, you can see down here a lot more population here. Or there's other different types of displays here that make it look real interesting and start giving it a different look and feel. So dot density is really popular. Usually I'll show you this with two variables, but I think just the idea that this display or style button gives you a lot of different functionalities that if you haven't used it before, it's quite powerful. Something else that I think is really interesting here when you click style is I need to make a map, but I don't know what the places are on the map. You can turn on places, you can turn on roads. Roads will get a little bit too much information here in a second, but you can turn on this information to tell a different story on the map. So what I talked about in the beginning is I wanted to add another variable. So it's usually population and income. This kind of makes sense for this type of a demo here. So when I add another variable, it defaults to counts and amounts and graduated circles. So basically the darker the color, the more income. Oh, wait, let me make sure I got it right. Yep. The darker the color, the more income, and the bigger the circle, the population. So you can see where the population is and where the higher incomes are. Sometimes this is harder to recognize. So there's another way to do this, which, well, here, this one I used to utilize a lot in our years ago was dot density. And basically the dot density, let me see, color coded is, I want it to be population and I want dot density. No, wait, I had it right. Sorry, I'm going backwards here. Color coded to be income, and usually the dots is number of people per, what is it? I'm trying 70 people. So there's 70 people per dot, or you can say, I mean, just to make it a round number, and you'll see the display change per dot. So you can see denser population downtown, higher incomes outside of town. And one way to do this, a way that I haven't seen a lot of people utilize in a while, is bivariate mapping. And this is really interesting. Let me go over to the side here and I'll introduce some of these buttons off to the side here with this legend. These are really powerful ways to show two variables at a time. And you need a legend and you need to educate your user on how to visualize this map. But I think it's really powerful to show population on this grid axis, income on the other grid axis. So where there's higher income and a lot of people living, it creates a really nice bivariate map to show different bits of information. So you can see higher incomes in the outskirts of the area, more the suburban area, and higher populations in the area. I think that's pretty interesting and a nice way to look at things, or to get information about an area. So when I moved to San Antonio a long time ago, I didn't know just where the population is, income, home values, just all the different information that you can learn about a location, just visually mapping the area. Pretty interesting. Or something else that I thought was very powerful, or powerful inside of business analysts that a lot of users may not utilize, is this information off to the side is some pretty powerful tools to learn about an area. So add boundaries and labels. Can't say labels. What are the zip code boundaries in the area? It gets to be a lot of information on the map. Let me turn off these places here. And let me get this more transparent because I just wanted to highlight this here. So now let me zoom in a touch here. So now I can utilize the granular data at the block group level that's in the area, but I can see the zip code boundary and I can see the zip code label. So now you have a lot of information on the map. You know, in this area, the income and the population, and you also know the zip code in the area. Likewise, you can do the same thing with block groups or states or the other boundaries that are available. So this guy over here is really powerful. Clearing the map out, easy to do. Nice tool there. Now what's nice though is if I go to recent, I have my recent thematic maps here just for future reference. And another button that a lot of users don't utilize a lot or may not know about off to the side is historical traffic. What's the traffic patterns in the area? And the different ways and different styles that you can map this traffic data. And the different legends and the different color ramps that you can do, or the ways that you can visualize this traffic data. There's a lot of information here that you can utilize. So between color-coded mapping via color-coded maps and the different bivariate mapping and visual analysis that you can do in Business Analyst Web, to adding boundaries to your map. So everybody wants to know what zip code you're looking at, because if you're looking at home prices and property prices, it's always nice to type in that zip code into realtor.com, as well as traffic counts. So some things that you may not have been aware of in Business Analyst. I'm going to turn it over to
Hey, Dennis,
Eric.
before you do,
yeah.
and this is great stuff, but I have a question that I think is right.
Yeah.
This is a good time to ask it. Is there a way to include the colored legend when you're printing a PDF so that the clients can easily see what they're doing in front of them when they present this?
Yes. Let me just turn on a thematic map here and close out of this. And here's the print or create PDF or image. So the legend will show up for anything included. So, and Eric, you may be able to help me with this. I think if you're bringing custom data, sometimes the legend doesn't show up, but if it's any data that's standard in Business Analyst, the legend will show up inside of the
any
application.
standard data will show up, and depending on how you have your settings for the data coming from a web map, you can actually have that appear in the legend as well. So that'll be something you set in the web map interface.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So as you can see, you can move the legends around too. Cool. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a second here. And as we're doing demos, we have lots of, there you go, thanks. So the next thing I wanted to demonstrate here and is there's some nice new reports that just came. Well, there's two reports that I think some users may be aware of, but I wanted just to make everybody more aware of them because I think they're really nice and powerful and useful. And there's two new reports coming out, the civilian labor force reports coming out, and I forgot the name of the other report. Another report coming out as well too. But
Community
I wanted
profile.
to thank you. That one's no, it's the I got to look at the first slide, but it hasn't come out yet, so I don't remember. But what I want to show is some new reports or some reports that you may not be aware of. So let me just get some information. Let me get a location on the map and create a site. I'm stuck on drive times, so do some drive times and infographic.
And Dennis, you're going to a demo now. You want to reshare?
Oh, thank you. Let me close out of this here. Screen 3. Can you see that okay?
Yep, got it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. So I put a point down on the map, created some drive times. I think I just did the click on the map routine to do that. And then running an infographic for the site. This is my default infographic. But I wanted to show is what's in my community. This is a really great report because what it's doing is it's summarizing business points in the area. So it's taking that the data axle data and summarizing that data for the location. So within 5 minutes, there's 291 healthcare providers, there's 18 schools, there's 37 restaurants, there's 7 public transportation locations. And each one of these has the businesses inside of here. I mean, this is pretty powerful. You know, it's from the location specs, GNC. It's telling you the business locations inside of this area, but in a really nice, compelling summary report. This report what I love about infographics is you can take this report, export this as a dynamic HTML, which is basically a web file or a web-based file, and you can send this to someone. They can open that up and they have this report just as we're seeing it here. So the What's in My Community report is, I think it's really powerful. Our product team did a great job putting this together to get you an idea, what's the business landscape around the area. And we've done these in the past, but these reports are fully editable. So if you wanted to edit this report and change it from education to another business type, it's pretty easy to do. You just got to change the text and stuff, but you can change this to be any businesses that you're looking for, any points that you
Dennis?
have in your system.
Yep. We also have a question. What about adding demographics to that report?
Exactly. You'd add a panel off to the side or something. If you wanted to add total, like you wanted to put a grid up here, you could put total population, median household income, whatever variable that you want. And that's it's really nice about these, is they're all customizable. I won't edit it, but I just want to show you, click edit, and it brings you into the editing environment.
Also worth noting, you could add a second page to that as well. So you could have that as the first page of the infographic, and the second page could be a demographic focused page. Just
like this one, the civilian labor force is a 2-page report. Another great report put together by the product team, coming out in February 23rd, I believe, next week. This other report that I think is pretty interesting too, is using our our market potential data. Well, different data sets, but to show you how well shopping locations or different locations index across the US. So it's pretty interesting. It's saying people, going to show tickets online, very high index versus you would think in Texas we'd have a high index for going to the Tractor Supply store. I think if I went a little further north into the country, maybe this would be a higher index. But this is a really powerful report to get to see what is indexing very high in shopping and spending. But what I mentioned a minute ago is you can edit these reports and put different variables in here. So this one is showing spending. And then what I did here is, so here's our shopping and spending report. But what I did is I edited this report and called it custom template 1. And I believe this is basically, it's the same thing. I just edited this here for different variables. So you can see, vaccine benefits or choosing different foods is very popular in this area. Choosing that nutritional foods with nutritional value in this area, or you go out to the 15 minutes. So customizing the reports or taking the existing report and customizing the report to your needs, it's really easy to do and pretty powerful. So here it's using psychographics was the one I used here. But I can click add variables. Oh, I didn't cancel here. Clicking around here. Oh, here it is. Sorry. And choosing a different variable. And then that widget will work with the new variable. Another thing I wanted to show, let me cancel out of this here and go back to the map, is something I thought was pretty interesting. So when you have a site and you want to have a photograph for the site and you want to make a property flyer. So there's different ways to create an infographic, but it's always like, how do I get my photo on the infographic for that building? And then how do I get maybe the attributes associated with that location onto my my report? So I'm cheating here and just clicking on the map. I could type in an address, but we're just saying, here, let's say we're going down near the airport here. And we need to create a site. I'll just do radius right now. And this is how do you get a photo onto that location, and how do you enter the attributes for that location? And what's really great about this is I'm showing you this in the browser application, but this could be done in the Business Analyst mobile app. So you could say the building area is 12,000 square feet. I don't know, it's 8,000. The site area is 8,000 square feet. Number of units, I'm just totally making this up, 15. Let's say it's got 100 parking spots. price per square foot is 23 cents. And the current owner is Eric Pollard. No, well, I don't know, like CBRE, whatever. Current owner is CBRE. So I've entered site attributes for this location. Now I want to add a photo to this location. So let's say you have on your, if you're doing this on your phone with the mobile app, you may have photos for location, or you may have them on your hard drive, but you can add a photo to this location. So once you do this, you can run an infographic for this location and run one of the infographics that basically works with the, is set up to work with a photo for the building. It's pretty easy to be able to say, now we got the site, where it's located. Obviously, we can customize this to, your different variable needs. And then you have the site characteristics for the location. This is a good one. And then there's the multi-area report. A multi-area comparison report is another one that has a photo associated, or it's already created for you. But it's really nice because it gives you the site characteristics that you've entered. It gives you the map, demographics, and a photo for the location. So if you're looking for a quick way to get a photo of your property on a map, it's really easy to add a photo or click attributes and type in those attributes. Cool. You want to show the next slide, Eric? We'll go to the last subject here. So what I wanted to do finally here is I showed this, I think it was 2 webinars ago, and I just wanted to reintroduce it. It's pretty powerful to be able to run reports really quickly. I think it's like 3 clicks or less, or 2 clicks if you want to, within the Site to Do Business dashboard. So let me share my screen. Make sure I get the right one. So
while you're doing that, Dennis, just a quick question on the reports. Is there a way to import parcel data to show parcel outline characteristics?
You can import parcel data through the add data tool. Here I can share my
Without,
screen
you don't know, yeah, okay.
But it's basically
a little
add
pressed
data.
for time, but okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it, but if you have parcel data inside of your Esri system or your ArcGIS Align system, it's another story. But you can add the parcel data from here, visualize it on the map, and then print the map with it to view the parcel data. There's a lot more to go along with that, but yes, you could bring parcel data into the software or the application.
Cool.
So, oh, you're welcome. Thanks for the question. So back to the homepage, quick reports. So this was a request to be able to get a report really quickly, and the team at STDB, CCM, those guys put this together. So this is a quick, like how do you use this thing? The easiest way to do this is, there's a few ways to do this. I'm going to type in like San Antonio. Let me just type in San Antonio right here. We go into San Antonio. It basically gets this widget, we'll call it, working. It asks, do you want to do rings, drive times, or walk time? Maybe walk time in New York or San Francisco, but let's say drive time. It'll create what's called the drive time trade areas. And then there's a few selected reports in here that are pre-selected by your team administrators. I'm going to say office specialty and run this report. So you can type in the address, click on the map, or I believe there's another tool where you can hand draw a radius or a trade area and basically run a report. It's pretty quick to be able to utilize this quick reports tool. I'm just waiting for this thing to process. There you go. And these right now are tabular style reports, and the PDF is the option on these. So it's doing the 10-minute and then out to the 15-minute. But really quickly, I mean, quick reports is pretty quick tool to run some demographics for. Like here, I can click on the map and get it to run via this technique and click apply and do the radiuses. And what you're seeing is in the background, if I cancel out of this, or let me clear out of this. If I click this too, it'll take me to the MSA for this location and run the report from there. Or it asks me to select a report. So I'm just scrolling back out here. So those are some really quick things. I showed visualization in the map, some new infographics and some existing infographics just to make you aware of those. The What's in My Community, I really like that report. and then back to the homepage, the SCDB homepage, quick reports, really quick way to run a report. So I'll turn it back over to you, Eric, at this point.
All right, thanks, Dennis.
Yeah, no problem.
And let me share my screen. Okay, so one of the last things we're going to go over is dashboards. And so dashboards is a great way to share a series of infographics and demographics specifically based on either a single site or multiple sites. So, you know, a dashboard is, as it kind of sounds, right, an interface to have a series of pieces of information that you can gauge your decisions based off of. One of the common use cases in real estate would be to have a series of potential locations that you want to share facts that you can compare and contrast for those different locations or different markets as well. It doesn't have to be specific, discrete locations. It could be markets or other types of geographies. So those are some of the reasons why you might want to use a dashboard. Now, there's some options when we configure this, and you'll see this in a minute. There's something called side and main layouts. The big difference is just that one of the layouts, the side layout, is going to allow you to choose for multiple sites with the same infographic. And then the main layout is going to be the same site, but multiple infographics. So you'll see that in a minute. And then finally, you'll see that this is very good at producing a very quick and very easy to use dashboard. If you so choose, you can go further and configure and edit this. You can show different KPIs. For instance, if you had aggregated rent metrics or aggregated property values, et cetera, you could turn on indicators to show those types of values based on the current extent of the map. And then also you can obviously share this dashboard out. You have multiple ways to share it. You can use the conventions that you typically see within Business Analysts and ArcGIS Online of sharing it with somebody else that might be another CCIM member, or you can also share it if you turn it publicly into a shareable item. You can share it with others outside of the organization. So why don't we jump into a demo? So I'm going to leave the information that we had from my last demo on. That's the coffee shops as well as the boundary of this county here in Florida. And what I am going to do is I'm going to draw, using my arrow up here, a box around all of these coffee locations. So this is actually kind of an important little trick to know. If you were to select a series of locations by using this draw or arrows, what you'll get is you'll get a box over here that gives you the number of locations you've selected. In this case, 1 out of 32, right, is showing on the screen. So there's 32 total locations. And then I have the ability to create buffers. So I want to create these trade areas so that I have some type of area to aggregate demographics around. So I'll hit create buffers. I'll use drive time, and I'll just for now choose the 5, 10, and 15 standard. I could change these to other drive times. I also can go into more options and change the actual options for things like traffic, time of day that traffic's at, away from or towards the facility. So this is actually a good example. In a retail scenario, we're typically going towards the facility when we look at the demographics. So I'll go ahead and hit apply now. And what it'll do is it'll create a large number of polygons. So that kind of looks like a soup, right? There's about 32 different trade areas of 5, 10, and 15 minutes around each of those locations. What I'm going to do next, though, is I'm going to go ahead and hit this Create Sites button. So by hitting this, what it's going to allow me to do once I create these 32 sites is save these into a layer, right? I could go on and do more analysis with this layer, or I could do what you're going to see in a minute, use these within the dashboard. So I'm just going to create a new layer and leave the default name, Coffee Shop Sites. I'll go ahead and let that draw. And then once that draws and creates all these sites, we're going to go into this Share Results button here in a moment, and we're going to share these. Now, by having chosen the 5, 10, and 15-minute drive times, obviously those are the demographics and other information that we're going to see. So in other words, 5 minutes population, for example, around that each of those coffee locations, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, etc. So we now have all of our sites on the map. I'm going to switch my arrow back to the pan so I can move it around if I wanted to zoom in or look at anything. But when I'm ready to go ahead and create a dashboard, I come up here to Share Results. And you'll see the bottom left button is ArcGIS Dashboards. Very importantly, if you haven't seen these before, there's always a little watch video under each of these tiles. So be aware that you can always click on that and get a little refresher on how to perform that action. Same thing with the dashboards. We're going to do this live today. So we're going to hit ArcGIS Dashboards, and we get a little panel to configure this. So as I said earlier, you're going to basically choose the type and layout of the dashboard. We're going to select the sites, meaning the sites we just created, and then we're going to create the dashboard. So I'm going to hit get started. Now, this is again where you need to make this important decision. Do you want to use many sites and a single infographic to essentially illuminate or describe each of those sites? Or do you want to focus in on one site but have many different infographics for that one site? You'll have different use cases for both. Whenever you're showing kind of a portfolio of locations or potential locations for lease or sale or whatever that might be, you're obviously going to choose the many sites with same infographic. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And now we can choose a dashboard layout, right? So there's the side layout and there's also the main layout. I tend to like the side layout if you're doing a list of locations. It gives you easy access to a list functionality that a user can just click on. Definitely try them both out. There's also even little samples. If you hover over, you can see a sample of the side layout or a sample of the main layout. But again, for this one, I'm going to choose the side layout. Now it's going to ask me to add sites. So I'm going to hit add sites. What's nice is if I click currently on map, I have all my sites. One thing you will notice is you can choose to leave or not leave in any types of standard geographies you used in the previous analysis. So if you recall, I used the St. Johns County geography to be able to tell it where to search for coffee shops. For today, I'll leave them all on. So I'll select them all. So it'll include all sites, including the St. Johns geography. I'll hit apply. So now I get basically a confirmation over here on all the sites that I want to use. I could edit this list if there's some in there that I don't want, but I'll go ahead and accept that and hit next. Now it tells me to choose the infographic. So up here, I hit the drop down. This can be any infographic from the Esri infographics, or if you have your own infographics in the My Infographics section, you can go down and choose one of those as well. For today, maybe I'll just do something pretty easy like the demographic profile. Now I can enter in a title and we can call this Coffee Shop Locations Dashboard. All right. Now, again, we can choose our sharing here or we can choose our sharing later from the ArcGIS online interface. If I knew that I wanted to share out with specific different users, I could choose that right now, but I'm going to go ahead and hit create. I'm just going to use this for myself at the moment. Now it's creating that dashboard. You'll see down here, it goes through a series of steps. It creates the web map, it creates the infographics, right? So it's doing a lot of work behind the scenes to build this dashboard. This dashboarding functionality, I should mention, is not something that's unique to only business analysts. It is a functionality that we have in the entire ArcGIS Online ecosystem. So if you wanted to explore dashboards directly from the ArcGIS Online web maps and data in there, you can explore that as well. But just do know that you can very easily create them in this business analyst or site to do business application. So we're almost done now. It's creating the hosted feature layers. It's going to have a step 4 in a moment here that's going to finalize essentially everything. And do note, obviously, the more locations and the more trade areas you choose to display, obviously, the longer it'll take. Here we chose 32 locations and we chose 3 drive times around each of those. So it is making a large number of infographics, essentially just shy of 100 different infographics. So we've created this infographic. You are going to always get this screen next. You have the ability to view that dashboard or edit that dashboard. You also can copy the link to the dashboard. I'm going to click view right now, and then I'm going to show you what the edit does in a moment. So when you click on view, it's going to open you up in a new tab, and this is your dashboard. So this is the view, this is the URL and your address bar, this is the actual dashboard. And what's great is it gives you a few main sections when you use this type of layout. It gives you a map section in the bottom right, a list section in the top right, and then it gives you the big, large actual infographic here in the main part of the screen. So if I were to choose any of these locations in the list, let's say I wanted to choose the Island Ice Cream and Coffee over here. So I'll choose that one. What it'll do is it'll zoom me in there. I also can zoom in even further in my map if I wanted to get more exact. Again, I could have also adjusted just, the trade areas such that they were translucent and only had dark borders. I could have done a lot to improve this map, but for speed's sake, this is the functionality. By clicking on this, not only do I get the infographic for the island ice cream, as you can see up here in the top left, but I also get a map of where that island ice cream is. So if I chose another one, let's do the Mugs and Pugs. Interesting name. So we have a series of different ice cream and coffee locations specifically in here. And so this has changed for the Mugs and Pugs. I think what's very important to note too is that by default, it's going to use the first trade area. So that's that 5-minute drive time. But note that you have all three available to you because we created all three. So I could choose 10 minutes. It'll adjust all these facts. I could choose 15 and it would adjust it again. One other good trick to note in here, you also have the side-by-side comparison as you choose these locations. So I can flip this on and now I have the 5, 10, and 15-minute drive time demographics and information all side by side to be able to compare the different drive times for these sites. And so what I can do is I can even move each of these maps independently to get an idea where I'm looking or what's around it. And again, I can click on all of these. They're all interactive. I think Dennis has showed you a lot about the infographics, so I won't go too much into those, but note that all of these are very interactive, and by clicking on them, you can get even more detailed information. You can even do benchmarking and comparisons, etc. So this is a great way to quickly create a dashboard. If any part of this dashboard is too small to see when you're leveraging it, you can use the top right button to give yourself a larger view, and then you can use it again to minimize that view. You also have the ability to sign in and out here too. So that's really the full complement of things on this dashboard by default. Now, let me show you very quickly. I'm going to take about 2 minutes to show you this here. Back in this screen, I told you had the ability to view the dashboard. You also have the ability to edit the dashboard. So if I click edit dashboard, what's going to happen is it's going to take me into the ArcGIS dashboards editing functionality, right? So obviously you see the same dashboard you saw earlier, but now you see tools to the left that allow you to continue to edit this dashboard. Let's say, for example, that the map was very important to us and I didn't need to see the infographics as large. I could hover over this border and I could start to drag this over. And I could also even drag this up and start to make the map more prominent in my dashboard if that was more of a focus for me. I also can go over here on the left and I can add elements. So I can hit add element. And what it's going to allow me to do is choose a series of different elements that I can add. And it's going to give me places where I can add them. So let's say I wanted an element below all of this. I could hit that and I could choose from a series of different things. I can choose a map legend, a serial chart, a pie chart, et cetera, et cetera. All of these different elements can either link to the information you have in your map, or you can choose new information, other data layers that you have within your ArcGIS Online ecosystem. So just for quickly demonstration purposes, I'll choose a map legend. It'll show me that those are the drive times. These are the coffee points, right? And then this was that standard geography we chose. Again, I could have gone back and cleaned these up, made them look a little better, changed the titles, etc. But for right now, I'll just show you the functionality of adding this. Now, this is pretty large. I may not want this right here. I may actually take
Eric,
this.
we're just about out of time. Just want to call a time check.
Thank you. So here I am just finishing up, changing up how this looks and making this a little bit smaller and getting a good idea what this dashboard looks like. So I highly implore you, come in here, take a look at the different things you can do in the dashboards, right? You can change the colors and the theming. You can change the elements and the layout, et cetera, et cetera. And you can really get a customized dashboard to show the properties in the way in which you want to see them. And then obviously you always have your dashboard with the URL that will now be shareable with others based on how you choose your sharing settings. So let me stop there. Again, the dashboard's a great way to share your information, a great way to convey many different sites or many different locations at once, and a great way to compare and contrast between those locations as well.
Okay,
so
thank you, Eric. Thank you, Dennis. We do have a couple of questions. One of them, I think, is in general, are we going to be recording any new training videos in Site to Do Business so that we can show off some of these new functions and help people to learn how to use them?
So from the folks on the phone, we do serve as a support mechanism to the CCIM Institute and the technology group. And so they would be the best ones to answer that question. You have both Ben Wilson and Carol Campbell being able to tell you what that schedule would be. And we're certainly here to support them as they do any of that type of work.
And then also we had a question, can ArcGIS perform spatial analytics using shapefiles, and where can we learn more about that?
Yeah, so shapefiles is just one type of data format that can be ingested in the ArcGIS system, including the business analyst or site to do business. So shapefiles specifically can be uploaded directly through the business analyst screen. And I'll show you actually very quickly where that is. If we come back over here in the add data, you actually can import a file right here. And shapefiles are acceptable. As you can see, you just have to zip them up on your machine and import them. If they're very large shapefiles and they exceed these limits, I suggest going to the ArcGIS online framework and uploading your shapefile there in the contents section. You then can always add data from your web maps and layers and find where in your ArcGIS content that layer sits. So the answer is yes, absolutely.
Very good. All right. I think that's it for today. Again, thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Eric. And want to thank everybody who joined us today and everybody who is listening in. As a reminder, the recording of this session and the accompanying presentation will be emailed to all of the registered attendees. And we did, we did a couple questions are just latecomers, and we'll go ahead and answer those and respond through an email. And on behalf of Esri, thank you guys very much.